Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Mike Butcher. I'm editor-at-large at TechCrunch, and I'm fighting Brexit. Okay. I only need $750,000. Okay. Come and join me, ladies and gentlemen. Let's join the fight. Join the Rebel Alliance.
Process the network uses to verify.
Hello. Right. Let's get into this. Joe, thanks very much for joining us.
Pleasure.
I think you must surely be incredibly satisfied that Bitcoin is now worth $1 million each.
Don't know what to say to that.
But I mean, briefly, this was promised, wasn't it? And so what went wrong?
So it was promised by some people, I believe, that Bitcoin would be the one and only technology and cryptocurrency or crypto asset that the world would need, and that somehow on top of this Bitcoin platform we would re-architect society. But I think other
people had different ideas.
Other people thought that it would be a demonstration, an interesting breakthrough, and that if we needed to re-architect society, that an enormous amount of diverse effort would be required, and it would take years and decades.
More seriously, I mean, that was kind of a joke, I guess, but obviously we've seen an explosion of cryptocurrencies, but people are characterizing what's going on right now as a crypto winter. Now, question is, what does that really mean? That means a crypto winter in terms of prices, in terms of currency, but what does that mean for the wider blockchain ecosystem?
So technologies generally are accompanied by hype. People get excited about it. The fear-greed cycle, especially when you bring investors into the picture, tends to take hold. We saw it with the dot-com boom bust and subsequent global transformation of society. It's exacerbated by the fact that there are all these tradable assets inherent in this new technology, so an even greater irrational exuberance and rush and excitement accompanied our ecosystem. And we've seen 5 major booms and busts in the 10 years since Bitcoin was invented. And so each boom is an order of magnitude or 2 larger than the previous one. The previous one looks like a little pimple on the chart. And as we will probably continue to do, we got ahead of ourselves in 2017 leading into 2018. A lot of exuberance, but that particular excitement brought many more consumers into awareness of what we're doing and brought a huge number of entrepreneurs and technologists. And so they're still there. Once you've seen the power of blockchain and decentralized protocols, you can't unsee it. These are better ways of building things.
It's a technology that's basically here to stay.
The technology is here to stay, and the ecosystem is 1 or 2 orders of magnitude, 2 orders of magnitude larger than it was 18 months ago. And so all those people are still building. The pace of innovation is astonishing. And what we did see in the crypto winter, where prices overshot quite significantly and then corrected, was the shaking out of not necessarily the weak hands, the weak minds, the weak morality, the people who are still building the foundational infrastructure are there, and we're seeing releases of great projects. We're seeing less ability for fraudulent projects and bad projects to maintain traction.
One other question on this topic, and I'm not here to lay this at your door. Obviously, we're here. What would be fascinating would be to hear your perspective as a key player in the industry. Is that, there are some critics who said that the ICO bubble, built largely on Ethereum, was a phenomenon to boost the price of Ethereum. What do you say to those critics?
So I think that implies intent that some puppeteer tried to get thousands of schemers and millions of participants to participate in this excitement, many different kinds of projects, many different great technologists and entrepreneurs building these, many terrible projects, many fraudulent projects, all in the pursuit of raising essentially the price of the underlying platform.
Yeah.
Seems a
Who
little...
do you think should be accountable for that irrational exuberance that happened? I mean, really, without any oversight or regulation, wasn't there?
I think human nature is accountable for that.
Right.
So there's tremendous work being done in this field, and it's the fruits of that labor are already starting to be seen, and they will continue to blossom.
Well, as you
time.
say, I mean, blockchain is a technology that, you know, once you've seen it, you can't unseen it. It's clearly here to stay and has enormous advantages over some pre-existing systems if it's applied correctly, I suppose. Let's talk about consensus. Let's get a couple of issues out of the way first. Obviously, we've been reading in the news that you've had some interesting times, as the Chinese proverb says. You've had some layoffs. Apparently, The Verge, for instance, reported that out of your 1,200 workforce, about 50%, was it about 50% had been let go? Was it 300%? Was it, what was it? Let's talk about those rumors. What's happened at Consensus?
So Consensus is just continuing to evolve. We, for 4+ years, have been working to foster awareness and adoption of the ecosystem. We were focused on doing cool things. We were focused on building businesses, but we weren't primarily focused on revenues. We weren't primarily competing with a bunch of different organizations in our ecosystem. Our goal was to open the ecosystem, and we succeeded at that. And
right.
We welcome many companies into our ecosystem now, and we're competing. So it makes sense to re-architect ourselves to compete effectively.
So there was a sort of bit of creative disruption going on.
So we've been re-architecting since the start. We've been many different companies since the start.
Right.
There has been reports in the news.
So how accurate are they?
So what we put out and what some journalists printed was that we did reduce some roles in our solutions group, our consulting group, in our community group, in our HR group. So it's 13%.
13%.
13% role reduction. That is accurate. We have also, in the last 2 months, hired, I think, 93 people. So it's just a rebalancing and a re-architecting of the company. It's something
downgraded some aspects of the company and re-upped in others.
Exactly. We're still growing very significantly. We're still investing in many great projects. We're running.
You closed Token Foundry. What was the problem there? Because that was many people thought Token Foundry had some real legs.
We did not close Token Foundry.
You didn't?
No, we did not close Token Foundry. So Token Foundry is...
Slashed it?
Token Foundry is a project that has been enabling us to issue consumer utility tokens. And we've done many of those launches of tokens for our own companies as well as third-party companies. We're adding to Token Foundry a group called Consensus Digital Securities. We'll announce its existence at some point soon. And so we
Is that breaking news?
Sorry?
Is that breaking news?
It's not really breaking news.
No?
So we will.
Okay.
You can
call
it that if you want to. So we will continue to do consumer utility tokens, and our friends at the SEC and other organizations around the world are comfortable that if you construct a token properly and you market it properly, then it can be an element of utility on an open platform. If you're selling it to users of the token, that's clean. If you're selling it in enormous quantities to speculators, and if you're putting billboards up in Times Square and advertising to the masses, then the SEC in the United States is likely to consider that a security, even if you've architected the token properly. As we've seen, there's still, even though there has been a significant pause in the issuance of these consumer utility tokens as people try to understand the landscape, and we're very comfortable that that it's going to be a big go very soon. Still, during that period, there have been lots of issuances of tokenized securities, and Consensus Digital Securities, Scoop, is architecting itself to do a bunch of those.
Well, I want to go back to securities in a second, but speaking of securities, there was a big ICO which was promised, and speaking as a journalist, that everyone was watching this in the media, the Civic ICO. Civil, sorry.
Yeah, Civic is an identity platform.
Yes.
Vinny's platform.
Civic, sorry. Yep. The Civic ICO platform, ICO, that failed. And this was a project to effectively re-energize journalism with cryptocurrency to incentivize journalists. Now, that's not gone as well as you obviously predicted. First of all, why? And second of all, what's happening next? Because I know that you are working on journalism as an issue, actually, continuing to work on it at Consensus.
Absolutely. In our opinion, journalism has been broken, decimated over the last couple of decades, especially at the local level, where private equity firms, different kinds of funds, conglomerates are essentially rolling up these properties and piping the same non-local information into these channels. And Don Tapscott was talking about the second era of governance. We have these new blockchain-based technologies, these new cryptographic voting systems, ways of organizing ourselves for collective behavior and governing ourselves differently. But they're going to be useless if we're in this binary world of risk on, risk off, and Facebook is feeding us our news and really just addicting us to a dopamine slot machine of opinion, which has been ill-used by different organizations and interests around the world.
How do you see yourselves?
So governance is important. Yeah. We need good information. We need to revitalize journalism. We need greater attention to ethics in journalism, and we need sustainable business models. So Civil is a platform, blockchain-based platform that has a foundation. It has a constitution. The constitution emphasizes self-organization and ethics. And so there are now 30-something newsrooms that have self-organized, that are putting out excellent content. They have attached themselves to the Civil platform, and they basically, the token's going live very soon, and so it will be issued, released, and sold continually over time.
The ICO didn't work, but the project still exists, and you're issuing the token.
Project still exists. It's putting out software tools already. The actual platform will enable newsrooms to form a charter, define their journalists, put stake on the platform, indicating that they will conform to the Constitution, and if their readership or listenership has issues with what they put out, then they can be challenged according to a process.
I see. But you're also working with WordPress.
Yeah, so that particular project has put out a few tools already. It's put out a tool for journalists to encrypt their notes, encrypt their stories if they want, put them on systems unattributed. So if they're in a dangerous political context, they can make notes and keep them safe. If at some point in the future they want to attribute them to themselves or to somebody that that they got them from, then they can disclose that information over time. So a tool for journalists for safety.
It's like a safe that they can put. They can lock
absolutely, yeah.
And then unlock later on.
Another tool that Civil has released, and it's been used recently by some journalistic organizations, is the ability to put a copy of an article non-repudiably, uncensorably on a blockchain system. So if there's something controversial, if it is being blocked in some way, you can get it out into the world. Civil's going live very soon. We have made an investment in Automatic, the company that releases WordPress. WordPress has put together something called Newspack. A huge percentage of the journalistic organizations around the world are on WordPress, and so Civil and elements of Ethereum, Forbes, and many others. Associated Press is working with Civil. Forbes is working with Civil. They're all going to be essentially Ethereum public mainnet enabled, and we're bringing tools for journalism to the public.
I want to talk about Ethereum in a minute. I want to just ping you back to what we were talking about, the issue about securities. Now, what's your view about where the SEC is now? They've made some, 50-50 kind of shutting some aspects of crypto and blockchain down and boosting other aspects. Where do you sit with SEC statements at this point? And, how are you talking to them, et cetera?
So we are big friends and fans of that organization. I think they're really understanding the space well. They are applying this thing called securities law to business in America and other places, as they have done for many decades successfully. They're identifying fraudulent projects. They're identifying obvious transgressions of securities law. But they haven't had a heavy touch, really. They've been gathering information. They've been taking some actions. They've been very clear that they understand there is this new construct, this protocol-based open platform.
So you think they get it?
Yeah, we believe they get it. They've introduced a new construct, decentralization, into their thinking. So in addition to the Howey test, they have this new construct that they're seeing certain things in. So they consider the Bitcoin network and token and issuance mechanisms. They consider the Ethereum network token and issuance mechanisms to be decentralized, and therefore no transactions involving those particular assets are considered to be transactions of securities. They have not said the same thing about other tokens, the Ripple token, for instance, and they were clear that they were going to come out with statements to sort of assess these different tokens, and I believe they've made all the statements about decentralization that they're going to make. And so Bill Hinman, Director of Corporate Finance, has been very clear about what you can do and what you can't do, and decentralization is a new element that they're working with.
So obviously that's the conversation will run and run. You mentioned obviously Ethereum there being recognized. The Ethereum is obviously quite central to consensus. You were involved in the early days of Ethereum yourself. Do you pay for your plane tickets in Ether, by the way?
I have paid for plane tickets in the past in Bitcoin.
Right.
I've never paid for plane tickets in Ether, yeah. So we have, for quite a while, we were paying people in Bitcoin and in Ether. As our company grew more and more complicated, especially in the US, embarrassingly, we had to move to paying people in state-issued currencies.
Oh, how embarrassing!
It is indeed. So we're working to get back.
Really letting the side down, Joe.
So it pissed off a lot of people, actually. But in order to,
well, perhaps they're kind of happy now.
Not really.
No.
I think they'd be happy to take.
They would have been hodling a few months ago.
So in order to interface with accounting systems, payroll systems, et cetera, we had to make that move in the United States. There's still some people in the organization that do take cryptocurrencies in different
clearly,
countries.
Consensus is very invested in the success of Ethereum, let's be honest.
We are.
It's not like you're invested in the success of Monero or, EOS or something, is it? And Ethereum is about to go through some pretty significant changes. There's this Constantinople hard fork. There's the work around moving to proof of stake from proof of work, which is eating up the planet's CPUs and GPUs. How closely are you inside that project, and what sort of influence do you have?
So Ethereum has evolved quite significantly since the start, and it was always intended to be not a money system as Bitcoin was intended to be. It was always intended to be a decentralized application platform, so you need to keep upgrading the platform. Constantinople is just the next upgrade.
Right.
It's the next upgrade in sort of the main branch of the platform. We have about 60 protocol engineers and our researchers.
And you have this Beacon project, don't you?
Sure. So we're working to continually improve Ethereum 1.x, but for quite a while we've been working on Ethereum 2.0, which does include sharding. It does include proof of stake, or Casper. Those are significantly scalability mechanisms that will...
so that we can get the whole planet on
yeah, so it turns one Ethereum network into thousands of Ethereum that are essentially connected to one another and maintain consistency with one another. So that is likely, elements of that are likely to arrive by the end of this year. The Beacon chain, where our team is already working on it, there are different implementations of that.
That's relatively quick.
So it's going to roll out in phases. Next phase on the Beacon chain is to bring a bunch of different implementations onto the same network and get them to work together, as we did with Ethereum 1.0. Even while that scalability work is happening, there is what we call layer 2 scalability work. So on top of the base Ethereum layer, which is the radically decentralized network that confers trust, we have many different technologies that are enabling thousands, tens of thousands of transactions per second. So there's one mechanism, a plasma mechanism. I'll explain that in a sec. That enables us to get 65,000 transactions per second on a blockchain system, and then we link that into a smart contract on Ethereum so that any assets that move between those systems can be certain of the safety. It can basically get the safety of the Ethereum network. So if you move your digital sword into a game on this network, and maybe you want to move it into an exchange on another network, you can be certain, if those are connected through Plasma, that nothing bad can happen in those networks, nothing corrupt can happen in those networks that would make it impossible for you to control your own assets, because they're sort of anchored at the base layer.
It's very much, this is really sort of very much the building blocks of the next wave, isn't it, of Web 3.0, as they called it. Finally, in the last couple of minutes that we've got, everyone is always talking about, a lot of people have actually written off blockchain, actually. The last year, we've seen the rise and fall of cryptocurrencies. We've seen the ICO bubble. It's almost like the crypto winter. In a strange way, it almost feels like that sort of early 2000s feel when, people said, oh, you work on the internet? Oh, dear, how sad. And up until about 2005, when Web 2.0 came along. What's your prediction for the next couple of years, maybe further, about where we're heading? Enterprise, you think it's here to stay? The consumer side, do you think it's here to stay?
Absolutely. So in the, quote, crypto winter, our professional services group, our consulting group, has been ramping up massively. So on the enterprise side, on the consortium side, we're seeing tremendous growth. No halting, no pausing at all. Probably be 4 or 5 times busier this year in that group than we were last year. On the public blockchain side, and we saw that with the internet, where intranets, they didn't lose any steam as companies were trying to figure out how they position themselves on the public internet. For public blockchain, we're seeing self-sovereign identity, decentralized identity. That's going to be foundational as we transform from a company-centric, siloed walled garden kind of architecture for Web 2.0 to a user-centric, self-sovereign identity-based architecture for Web 3.0, where we are in control of our identity, where we're in control of encrypted aspects of our identity.
What sort of timeline do you think you're working on for that?
We are seeing just exponential growth in terms of it took 10 years from '89 till, I told you before, till my mother considered getting an email account in around '99. We're building on the shoulders of technological giants, and so this stuff is coming so much faster, yet the vista is so much larger. We're used to interacting with a Web 2.0 world from flat screens, essentially. The Web 3.0 vision is sort of the Web 3D vision, where it will permeate the Internet of Things, many devices, many sensors, the Internet of People through our self-sovereign identities. So it's going to touch everything. I expect it will permeate nearly everything in perhaps 10 years.
Well, you heard it here first, and we'll only have to see, I guess. We'll have to do this again next year and see where we got to. But for now, Joe Lubin from Consensus, thank you very much.